bonds as a rainy day for insurance companies. If it never rains.
Okay, good night, good night, good night, good night, good night. Welcome everyone. Welcome to the Fatherhood Think Tank. Um, I am your curator and host, Dr. Ron. We welcome you to the Fatherhood Think Tank for 90, 60 to 90 minutes of intellectual conversation from fathers, about fathers, for fathers, with fathers. Um, uh, definitely make sure everyone is in getting in place. This tonight's topic is one I pulled right out of the back pocket. Might what you might think it is may be a little bit different, but the nice topic is that no child wakes up hating their father. Someone taught them to. And that can go in many ways, as you will find out tonight in this conversation. It won't be how you think it's going to be, maybe. We definitely always take conversations to a whole nother level. Um, and with that being said, let me first by saying, hey, go out there. If you are watching, like, share, subscribe, hit the button so you can know that we're going to be on. Let me just say quick acknowledge our sponsors of the show. Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi, Fort Lauderdale chapter. Been here from the beginning. Um, JAG, attorney at law, Miami, Dade, Broward, West Palm Beach. If you need to get in touch with attorney Johnny A. Gaspar, you can hit him at jgaspar at jag1law.com. On his phone number 305-827-8087. If you want to know the type of law that he practices, www.jag1law.com. And I want to thank him for being a constant sponsor. We are looking for more sponsors. If you have your business, you have your organization, you want to, you know, be a part of the sponsorship or a part of receiving advertisement on the Fatherhood Tank um, platform, hey, just hit me up, drop me a line, easy to find, and we can talk out how that works. You'll be surprised what can happen. All right, let me go ahead and introduce our fathers who are in the room for tonight so we can get this conversation started. Um, Gentlemen, we are here. I see the faithful brothers who always come and put in. I just want to say really quick before we even get started. Tenny, last week the conversation was about how do we spell time? And it was so ironic that you hit me and say, "Hey, I got to go and spend some time with my son." And we kind of talked about that at the beginning of the show, about like this idea of spending time is not just something that our our young children, our development children, is also something that our children and families need all the time. And it's just the ability to say, "Hey, I'm going to be there to say that, hey, I see you, I'm proud of you, and keep doing and be." And I like to say, be better than me. Take our family to the next level. I'm sure any real father wants their children, their legacy, to take things to the next level. So I just wanted to give that shout out to mainly your son and the great things he's doing out there in that acting world. I see him watching it. Almost we got a celebrity dad on our show. So with that being said, all right. So guys, we're here. What you can go in order. You can go in age. You can go in good looks. You can go any way y'all want to go.
All right. Good evening, gentlemen. I beat you to it, Vaughn. Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Naniel Lightborn. I'm a father to a tribe of 7 young adults, 3 young women, 4 young men, 1 granddaughter, and 1 grandson. And it's always a pleasure to be here.
All right, I guess I'll go second. My name is if you hear me in the background, hear noise in the background, I'm actually spending some time with my son at a JV game. Vaughn Howard, father of 2, married for 17 years. I have a son that's a sophomore and a daughter that's a junior.
Hi, fathers. My name is Rohan Rolak. I'm a father of 2 young teenagers. Been in the fatherhood program for over 10 years. Still here learning and still here teaching and trying to grow. Yep.
Good evening, gentlemen. My name is Ed Tenney. I am transitioning to a single dad. I have 3 adult children ranging in ages from 30 to 37. I have 1 grandbaby, just turned 2, and another one on the way that's supposed to be here as a Christmas present on Christmas Day.
Oh wow, that's
Pleasure
nice.
to be here.
Yeah, that's nice. I love that. So gentlemen, it's here. I throw it out there. I throw this curveball out there to kind of say, where that what do you think about that? How it looks. I mean, the banner shows. The banner we posted has a picture of dad holding the sign and 2 kids on the side, and I want to really hear what people say. We're gonna have a completely different what somebody might think I have make a point about our topic, and I have probably a completely different one that they're probably even going to kind of identify with. So I want to hear from you guys first. What are you thinking about that topic? You know, how kids, one thing is, how do kids develop learning to hate their dad? I mean, to me that sounds kind of ludicrous, but I guess it could happen in some cases.
I mean, we can go ahead. Yeah, go ahead. Go ahead, Rohan.
This question definitely opened the box, and in the box you're going to see different scenarios. And thank you, Lionel. And for me, as a father, I can say, along my journey, I never saw my dad when I needed him. Meaning, at Christmas, I'll be waiting for him. I'll be by the gate. No dad, no dad. He never showed up. So I can say where hate and resentment comes in, because then you want to see your dad. Where's my dad? My friends have their dad. Where's my dad? So there are many actors or fathers who are out there who earned that role. They weren't there to step up, in my opinion. At least show your face that you care. So maybe that doesn't affect me as I go along to try show my face in my own children's lives. You know, so I think there are good dads, and I think there are dads who are just MIA, missing in action. That's what I gotta say.
Yeah, I was going to chime in with that. I think it's a situation where children tend to tend to dislike. I hate the word hate, but have a dislike for their father because of it. It seems as though some fathers may prioritize things that might not seem as important to them, and they feel like, you know, in some instances, a second-class citizen. So with that, they have a tendency to feel like unwanted, so to speak. And of course, unfortunately, society will put a negative connotation, a light on, the strong father being a disciplinarian. And even with being a disciplinarian, it's out of love, but maybe it's not the love that is portrayed on TV with the Brady Bunch or something like that, specifically with black fathers. And I think if you do the comparison with the Brady Bunch dad and the Good Times dad, they had the same kind of love, the same, and for their children, but it's portrayed one being a negative versus a positive as it relates to the role of father, so to speak. You got one that showed as a comforter in a sense, and one that shows as disciplinarian, and that's unfortunately allow society to dictate how we are. So I'm gonna leave that with that.
I agree with both of you guys. You can have a child can hate a dad who love him. You understand? A child can hate discipline a dad gives. You understand? That may be protecting them from future things and future failures, future addictions, different things like that. And so you can be a hated father, you understand, just for trying to love your child. That's one scenario. But to Rohan's point, you can also be a hated father because your absence traumatized that child. And so I've seen a lot of scenarios like that. As a matter of fact, I have family members who really traumatized because of what you just described, Rohan, waiting on their fathers. I remember a situation where, as a matter of fact, two that I can think of in my family where they were waiting on their dads, and particularly young girls, waiting on their father to come, waiting on their father to come, waiting on their father to come, because for young girls, their father is their first hero. And I'm talking about like the whole, and to see a child wait for their father the whole day is not only just traumatizing for the child, but traumatizing for the person that's watching that child wait for their dad who's going to disappoint them anyway. And so the trauma is just on so many levels, because I mean, not only the trauma for the child, but the trauma for that parent, you understand, who have to actually try to institute healing, or that present parent who have to try to institute healing or trying to heal that child back to that trauma of that father not showing up. And so I think that is so deep rooted that you would see the trauma show up when people at their most successful levels of life. And they remember, I mean, you got the Tupacs, he had that issue. You got very big time superstars still have that issue. And so I think what we have to do, as opposed to focusing on the hate, is focus on the trauma that causes the hate. Because you're right. I think the topic is right. No child is wake up hating their father. But to hate your father, it means that an awakening has happened. That means that child has come to something. He's awoken to the fact that, you know what, I'm no longer in a fantasy relationship with my father like I was with Santa Claus. And it takes the same type of fantasy to be in a relationship with a father who's not there as it does to be into a Santa Claus who don't exist. And once you come into the awakening of both of those realities, yes, there's a certain level of anger and resentment that comes along with it. So I'm gonna leave it right there and open the floor up for somebody else.
Well, if I come from a personal experience, in the 8 years that I've had to uh, the pleasure, I believe, to engage with my stepson. Um, I guess I became the hated dad uh, because of a narrative, a negative narrative that was told, um, for whatever reasons. And my hope is that maybe as years progress, years come down the line, he may see that I genuinely loved on him, genuinely cared for him, genuinely provided for him, gave him counsel, gave him wisdom out of love. Only to have that, all of that history and basically evidence, kind of destroy based on a negative narrative. And, almost not even almost, but to the point where he used to address me as dad, not stepdad or anything like that, but now he addresses me by my first name and does not acknowledge me as a father figure in his life at all. So I think the um, the partner or the ex partner can have a lot of influence in how that child um, is how that child's father or father figure is colored in front of that child. When I consider my adult children, it seems like they would beg to differ um, in those characterizations. So it's a battle. It's not something that you can easily overcome. And I'm just hoping and praying that with time, um, things will, from a historical perspective, show in my favor.
So, that that comment, that statement you just made. What are you? Okay, how can I respond? Stepfather, father. Every father have a different value to a child, in my opinion, and there's learned behaviors. And to respond to what you just said just now is they may not see you now, they may not see your value now, but they may see your value later. Remember, it takes a village to raise a child. So just imagine two parents in the household with two different values or two different goals. So I always say to children, blossom where you're planted. And even though you left a seed there and it may not grow right away, it's still there. So I would say continue doing what you're doing, and your value will be seen at some point. It may not be now, because right now you're going through a storm. And during a storm, everything is all over the place. All emotions and feelings and so forth. But trust me, after a storm, there's a calm. And the values will still be there. So I think keep on doing what you're doing. All fathers out there, do the right thing, even though the right thing don't look good, or it's not in style, or it's not, many people don't like the right, but keep on doing what you're doing and you will never go wrong. That's my response to that.
Well, Tini, I mean, you're to be admired. I mean, just to meet you, you understand, because you're like the complete opposite of me, but which is true. But it's to be admired. I mean, you can be intimidated by somebody that's complete opposite of you, or you can be inspired by it. And I chose to be inspired by it, and to know that there's no amount of lies, or there's no lie that can outlive a life. That life would always speak for you. And whatever that life is, one thing I love about it is life actually defines life, right? And so if your life was wrong, whatever life is going to be next for that situation or for that chapter in that person's life, is going to have to prove that you are actually as bad as that person said you are. Or it's going to prove that you are actually better than that person said you was. That's the one thing about life. It's a very equal playing field. At time and all that, it has a way of just liberating you. You understand?
Balancing the scales.
Exactly. It balances the scale. So I wouldn't, I think anything that's not true is temporary, right? And so whatever you are and whatever you sowed into the life of that child, you're going to reap anyway. He's going to remember that, because if he don't remember nothing else, he's going to remember first he wanted the best for his mother. You understand? And time is going to determine what was best for his mother. And I've even had the truth liberate me, because I've had past relationships saying, when other relationships showing up, like, damn, man, you like, I love one of my people's brothers for telling them, man, that was the best dude you ever had. And I've seen that across the board, because again, time does it. And not to make me any puffed up, because I had to do some self-evaluations to understand what was my contribution to whatever the crises or departure or the divide or whatever the breakup may have been. I have to always do my own self-evaluation. But I was like, always, and then I don't want me to be the best thing a person ever had. Because to truly love a person, I want them to be able to do better as well, even if I don't think they deserve it. You understand? So that's what love is. And so if I ever love them at one point in time, even if they hurt me, I still gonna have to heal enough to still want better for them after, you understand, I overcome the hurt they caused me. And so that's gonna that child will be the equalizer when it comes to whatever the narrative and whatever the crisis may be. People have to grow into their truth about you. Understand? And time will always get us there.
You are saying, as I listen to you speak, like, boy, and I think about how Ed is describing that. You see how so easily it is an idea that, even the topic even brings this, that kids will. It's an easy idea for people to take the negative, right? For them to dislike you or have a disadvantage with you, or all of these things. But I think that it's so important to know that things really don't work that way with children, because of how they do not have complete control of some of the things that they do. So it's like somebody could feel like, hey, and I see this very often, because we're talking about, you were saying how all the things you did will come out that the child will remember. And I think that's so important, because we say that same thing when it's the other way around. Like, the child will remember that you abused them. The child they remember all these things to feel some way as they develop and get older and process and develop and analyze all the things that happen. They'll be able to, make their own conclusion, make their own decision on things without the pressure of being dependent. I like to say that they're dependent. They're dependent upon someone else, and they have to go along with who they're dependent, who the person is taking care of them. They have to go along with that. I mean, you don't got to go along with it while you're in my house. When you're in my house, you can do whatever you want. But when you eat my food, you got to go along with the flow. But it also puts in a mindset, and I think sometimes we don't think about how these kind of things help young people to develop some discernment about things, right? This idea of recognizing, identifying that I remember this, now I remember that, and why is this part that I don't understand how we got to this? 2 plus 2 is 4. But I'm missing something, because this equation has 2 plus 2 minus x divided by divided by r equals 2. Hold on, something it's 4. Now you're forgetting that. What is these other numbers that's saying that it should be something else when really it's really two. It's going to be four. I'm sorry, I got a little confused, but it's going to be four in the end period, right? Even though you had this dividing and the multiplication, all these other numbers that's unknown to the child still is going to come to something, and hopefully one day, you can hear the facts, like you can have a conversation with the child, the adult, because they're not going to be child when they come in and be like, "Yo, what happened? What happened to you?" And I continue to tell dads, and not just dads, but moms as well, be prepared to be able to have a father conversation with an adult person who may have been a child that depended on you, who learned to not depend on you, and then now are coming to get some answers, because you can't tell me that if a kid was depending on you, they didn't enjoy it and they continue to still want it. They don't, because we see this with abused children all the time. They still want to go home. They want to go back to their parents. They burned up. They've been burnt with scalding hot water. And where they asking to go? To the house where this happened to them. So this idea of saying, hey, these kids came up with such traumatic experiences in their involvement that they don't even love, that they hate this person, that's really big, because I don't even think it's in the kid's mind to even understand what hate is. Just like racism and all the other capitalism and materialism, kids don't have that initially. They learn it from the learned behavior from the people who are the influencers on them. And what ends up happening when they get to be their independent self at that later stage of development out of adolescence, young adolescence, they then start questioning those things. And so I think I say to fathers who may be going through this, you have to keep yourself steadfast. You have to remember that, yes, right at this moment, it looks like you worst thing mom ever had, right? Straight, can't go tilted to the side, whole thing. But in the long run, what you did put in, what the child knows about you, and what the child doesn't know about you, leaves an opportunity for redevelopment, re-engagement that you could never imagine. But the problem a lot of times that occurs in these situations is that we as the fathers are the ones who are not ready to engage in that. We don't know how. We don't have the skills to really engage, because we are still hurt. Listen, you can't tell me that it's a dad out here, and we know that because there's some dads who's willing to kill their child's mother, their children, and themselves. And people will say, "Oh, he's narcissistic." So he's narcissistic. He can be those things. But some of that is the idea of this love he could get from his child may be the only true love he knows that exists for him. And someone wants to take it away. So he doesn't. We know that a lot of grown men who are very good at running businesses, managing money, running a corporation, doing a lot of things, don't have those type of skills, because they really haven't been skills that was saying, hey, this is what we need to teach the men. This is what we need to teach the men who's going to be fathers. We haven't established that. You say, hey, go out there, make money, be a provider, be a protector, and you'll be good at your job. When there's some more skills that we probably need as fathers. That's more than just being a provider and a protector. Like we talked about last week, if you're providing a protector, sometimes you may not have the time because you're too busy being a provider and a protector. You're watching the video, the tapes at your house, then you got to go to work, come back in. What happened to the time where the kids would feel real protection? The idea of you coming in there and sharing time with them, again, I'm saying that a lot of times we look at this and we make it like this kind of gloom or doom type of thing when it comes to fathers. And I want us to realize that it really doesn't, human dynamics doesn't really work like that. Children's development doesn't work like that. I know that there are kids who will say, I know adults who say, I know more males say, I don't F with my dad, I don't mess with him, whatever. And then I'm as always, I'm always gonna ask this question that might be sensitive, might be my business. I ask him why? Why not? What happened? Well, he never was there. I mean, and I did not go deeper. Did you find out why he wasn't there? Especially when people tell me I ain't got no dad. I'm like, well, you got a dad. You know, I know somebody told you ain't got no dad, but that ain't how it works. You got a dad, and because you don't have a dad, you are missing something in your full development of yourself because you're willing to say that doesn't exist. And it's almost being delusional to me because now you're saying something that you do have, good, bad, or ugly, however it come out, you're saying it doesn't exist. And so you're missing something for me a lot of times in yourself that needs to be addressed. Like if you can't address certain things, like you see people, I think of scenarios of guys who never knew their dads because their dad was always in prison. And they end up right in prison with their dad, right? They never even got the time to kind of know him. The dad also said, I don't want to bring my son down here. I don't want my kids to see me in the... But maybe if you would have, it maybe in that case of being engaging in what you did to them would help them not end up in that same place. Because they would have an understanding of parts of them that could be vulnerable for that kind of behavior or those kind of things. But this again is, it becomes very, I almost to say complicated conversation. And also you have to then begin to look at involving them into specific people in specific cases. You can't really speak about, I'm speaking generally about this right now, but it's not ever general because we're talking about individual people with their individual feelings and emotions, the individual situations that you can't just group in and say, yeah, this is what it fits and this is what happens. I'm speaking real general about it just for in the conversation we're having, but if we had a specific, case study of how we could look at it, then maybe we could get a little bit more deep and say this, that, and the other. But we don't know. We're just talking general. I mean, I'm talking general. I'm going to be very clear. I don't want nobody to get on here and be like, oh, he was saying that, he was there. No, I'm just saying in general from having this general conversation. Now, if you want to be more specific, want to be more, finding out more case analysis of yourself and your family, the dynamics, that's something more individual where, you would have to hear, I would have to hear, or even going to a therapist or a counselor, somebody to be able to have to hear all the individual things and all the individual truths, right? Because one of the first things is everybody has to tell the truth. You might not like the truth, but you got to tell the truth to really understand the story. I can't say, hey, I got arrested. I was with Frank Gaines, I got arrested, but he didn't get arrested. There's something missing in that. There's something because it sounds like I'm saying Frank Gaines into this. No, maybe because when I got in the car, I told him, who y'all talking to? And Frank said, hey, man, get back in the car, man. Relax, calm down. And I was acting crazy. And then that's how I got arrested. But depending on my narrative, when I come to tell everybody in the group, I'd be like, man, let me tell you about Dr. Gaines, man. He left me out there on the humble. He did this, and I got arrested. He rolled home. He didn't pay my bail. He didn't bring no bail, this and that. There's something missing that we're not telling that people don't know. And that's why we have to be very truthful about, and be truthful with ourselves. I got out the car acting a fool. And that's why, hey, when you get out the car acting a fool with the police, I mean, their egos are thin. They got very thin skin. You can't even raise your voice because you excited around them. Next thing they know, they scared or they feel that you trying to, you being aggressive. So you got to almost, kind of be able to manage yourself a certain way. So that I'm saying that to say, really about being truthful with yourself when you're going to come into a case with how you're going to deal with your children if they come to you as adults, and being honest about what the facts is. I know you might not want to be, you might want to, but they're adults at that point. They coming to you. They gonna learn their own truths that they got to deal with. You know, a lot of times, like I said, the old saying, a lot of times your sons and daughters may come to you with a problem after they realize, is this the reason why we was in the house without you? You know?
But to get Dr. Frank Gaines out of that negative light, please introduce
That's
yourself.
not a negative. That's
What are right thinking like, oh yeah, he about that thug in Go ahead.
Yeah,
Please explain who you are, Dr.
I
Frank
was, I was starting to wonder. I mean, you know, do I have like an alter ego or something? Let me cast myself in a favorable light.
Oh, no, you did get a favor. Hold on, stop. It wasn't a bad light. It was a light.
I gotta be with you when you got arrested.
That I wanted to listen, and that's the point I'm saying. It was the idea that I presented to people, you in this negative light, but I didn't tell the truth that the reason why whatever happened to me was really because of me. Mm-hmm. That's what I'm saying. That if I get in the car with you and something happened to me, right. is that saying, oh, it was games, that's the reason why, but really it was me.
Ron, we okay with that?
No, okay. Just trying to get a scenario. You know.
Again, I'm Dr. Frank Gaines, father of 4, grandfather of 6, and I got one over here that's just wrestling with me on the side. She wants to write on the cell phone with a pen. And anyway, here's why me and her are battling. I got this sign on my desk, and the sign says, I think you can read it.
Can't tell me what to do. You're not.
You're not my grandbaby.
Nice.
And it's so true because she's over here. She's just directed everything. She wants to write on the sign. Anyway, yeah, I do have some positive attributes to thank, and I'm glad to be here.
Glad to have you, Paul. Glad to have you here.
Yeah, I'm trying to. You know, my apologies for being late. I'm trying to catch up with the topic. You guys have, well, at 7:51, you pretty much have turned it upside down and almost put it to bed. But you know, all behaviors are learned. You know, children do know. Children come into the world. Their children don't come into the world racist. They don't come into the world. I mean, they will give you what you give to them. Kids, they're so smart. They will gravitate to you if you do them right, and if you don't, guess what? You get what you give, and that carries on through life. Okay, you know, if you fight to be a part of your kid's life, you're going to be cast favorably. No child wants. You got to give them a reason to hate, whether someone else taught them or you taught them, and that's the way it works.
But that brings us to another scenario then, because we're talking about learned, but you have learned behavior, but it's also, and to your point, Dr. Gaines, you got earned behavior as well. And I think that's where the discrepancy comes in that, because we think everything has it. I'm like, no, you have some earned behavior too, because if you sow disappointment, you understand, you can't expect to reap favor. You understand? And I think a lot of the times, I think for the most part, by the world's being a sexist world, let me just say it for what it is. Oftentimes, we're at an emotional advantage where we can still get celebrated for doing nothing, or in some cases for celebrated for just showing up. You understand? And I don't think I don't think it's favorable for women to get, and I haven't really seen women get that kind of favorable treatment for being absent in the lives of their child. So you can get a father who's been in jail for 30, 40 years of the majority of his kid's life, come home, and he can pick up where he left off at. But I don't think the same thing would be seen for women, because women is expected to make a greater sacrifice. So I think with that, particularly as a man, I have to do some self-evaluation. I can be comfortable in that privilege and saying, you know what, the minute I show up, because the climate for fathers in the world, not just in the neighborhood, but in the world, is so desperate that the minute I decide I want to be a father, I'm going to be celebrated no matter what I contributed or what I didn't contribute. and that can be a little unfair. So I have to empathize with women on that aspect, and take accountability from the privilege I do have as a man, and do have as being the father that I am. And I'm a very involved father. I'm a very engaged father. But even with my involvement and my engagement, I don't think that I contribute as the amount of sacrifice, that's the word I'm looking for, that their mothers have, right? I was engaged and I was there, and I'm like, but I have to say that to acknowledge the companionship of my parenting, or us being parents. And so, and I back to Ron, your earlier point, there is a difference between, you're right. A child can't deny a person being their mother or their father, but you can be indicted for not being a parent. And there is a difference between being a mother and a father versus being a parent. Being a mother and a father, those are titles and attributes. But to be a parent is an action. That's a verb. And so, yeah, you may not be accused. Oh, okay, I can't. Yeah, I'm still your father. Yes, you are my father. But were you a parent? And I think that's where the rubber meets the road when it comes to me.
Well, there's a societal expectation for a mother, and that's a very high standard from a societal standpoint. So when a woman does not meet that expectation, oh yeah, society frowns upon her far more than if you had the counter and you have a man. Well, there is a societal expectation for a man, and the standard is not as high for men. So, with not near the expectation for a woman, a man, can be, their behavior can be consistent with that of a woman, and the man will be eviscerated. Okay, I mean, that's just the nature of a beast. But then I can also go on to say that that creates an atmosphere where a man can earn respect as a father a lot easier than, because they're with women have they have their kids gravitate to or attracted to their mothers. I mean, that's just the maternal. So they carry them for 9 months. There's not we can never expect to have, and we shouldn't even try to have the same type of a bond. So all of that is so nuanced. But again, the expectations for a woman far greater. Okay, with a man though, they're substantially less. But that makes it so much easier for you as a man to earn accolades, if I guess is a good way to say it. But don't take that stuff for granted. It takes both. It really does.
Right. So the word hate would not probably be the right word. Children learn to hate. I think that's to hating their dads.
I struggle with the concept of hate.
Yeah.
I don't. That capacity is not in me. I guess it is in some people. I don't have that capacity.
Well, look at the situation of a domestic violence relationship, where a father comes for his child. We have a scenario in Florida. He comes for his child. He executes the grandfather, the mother of his child, and a neighbor, and the child is walking behind him, seeing all of this. Is it safe to say that she has a right to hate him because he loves his child so much? Go ahead. Anyone want to respond to that?
Yeah, but herein lies the issue of, at the present moment, people might will tell her she should hate him. Again, this is going to be an influencing type of thing. Because in the same scenario, if she was human trafficked by some people and he did the same, came there, shot the people and did all this, the kid is only seeing this in one aspect of, my dad wanted to be with me and this is what he did. And it it's conflictual for them because later it's going to be like, but he killed your mom, right? He killed your granddad to be with you, to have you. And people will begin to twist it like, and I think this is why it is so important to really develop conversations like this so you can have men be able to express and understand that you don't have to do that. You don't have to go and kill the grandfather and the mother to get with your kid. You at this that separation is temporary. But I can speak based on experience, based on my working experience with men and fathers, that it feels like it's not. It feels like it is terminal, right? Like when people get a terminal situation, they have nothing to lose, and they feel like it's nothing to lose, and they losing everything that's most important to them. Sometimes they already lost a lot of stuff because when they trying to carry on and doing certain things, you getting them penalties. You getting the restraining orders. You getting the child support. You getting a lot of stuff done to you because, and some of it being done because you don't know how to handle it, right? You're handling it with the only tool you know is aggression, and that aggression means if I take charge and I be aggressive, I can then fear people into what I want them to do. Because I may not have the skill to be able to talk to them or to flex them or finesse them into what I want them to do. You know, I always say, and I'm gonna say this because when I think every time Lightborn would say finesse, I always thought about pimps, right? And this is just another mindset I just want you to think about. I have always in my mind thought about how could this pimp convince this woman to go do this, do that, come back and be like, I'm sorry, Daddy, I didn't make enough money. There is a part of that finesse in there that is light. But a lot of times the reason why they want to leave is because of the aggression that is there also, because that becomes a different kind, it becomes a scary fear. And so you're looking at that, and we don't have, many men don't have finesse. We only know aggression. That's why when we get with each other, it be like a pissing contest and ready to fight and shoot and stab. And you'd be like, well, where did that come from? You guys, we couldn't sit down and talk about this? No, because I'm seeing people look at me and I'm thinking that I'm being the chump. I'm looking like a fool, and I don't want to look like that. I want to look like, I don't want to look like a fool. I don't want to look like I'm less than. I want to feel like I'm a man. I'm the man. And that may not, that you can be the man and still talk it out. And you can be the man and wait.
I just had a terrible bit. It becomes like a piss and talk contest. And then I actually visualize it. I'm like, do they actually have those kind of contests? But
yes! All the time. And you see it very often. That's why a lot of organizations.
No. I know what you're talking about. You're talking about metaphorically. I'm talking about
right.
No, I'm talking about actual. But nevertheless, so I'm using my mind just wanders. And I know it's an old adage, so I understand the old adage. But when we're talking to a new generation, we want to make sure because they may be sitting like they have pissing contests. And so we wouldn't know that's just a metaphor. But I think
doesn't matter, not for real pissing contest, just the mental pissing contest, right?
Right.
Do not try this at home. Do not try the pissing contest at home.
Yeah, please.
Disclaimer.
Too many laws out there for that. It won't work. But I just better that was too tickling for me. But I think when it comes to it's so much to this because again I'm with you, Dr. Gaines. I don't think hate should ever be an option. I think hate is a sickness, if you ask me. If we put it in its proper perspective, hate is most certainly a sickness. And so I think the proper term will be hurt, right? And in some cases displaced hurt. And so like when mothers are giving birth to their children, and they're going through a certain level of pain, and they may lash out at the father while they're giving birth to that child, doesn't mean that anger at that particular moment means they hate that father. You understand, in the process of the pain that they're going through. And so I think that all of us go through some type of labor pain when it comes to having any type of relationship. And I think every relationship comes with a certain level of labor pains. And so whether it be a child and a father, a parent and a mother and a child, blah, 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 husband and wife, whatever the case may be, I think it's not so much about the labor pains that we're going through, but the actual raising or rearing, whatever that purpose of that relationship you may have, because every relationship actually has a purpose. And so the question is, whatever relationship you're in, what are you raising? You understand? If you're in a relationship with your homeboys and you guys are both dog fans, then you know what y'all raising? Y'all raising y'all hopes that they may accomplish a Super Bowl championship or something like that. And so all of us in the relationship we have, no matter who it's with, we're raising something, whatever that purpose and that cause is what we're actually raising. And so I think oftentimes, and I never can understand this, how we can have 40-year friendships with guys and can't survive 4-year relationship with women. You know what I'm saying? I can't realize, and the dynamics is so, and how we define that. Okay, I've been one guy friend for 40 years, but I couldn't, my relationships with a woman can't survive 4 years. And so what's the dynamics behind that? What is the social norms that contributes to that? Is it the narrative already patent, having a relationship with a man having a relationship with a woman harder than a man having a relationship with a man? And I'm talking about in the friendship sense. And so it's so many narratives out there that we have to almost free ourselves from what we were taught, or what they call it. And I heard somebody say this before. Kind of disagree with it, but I agree with it at the same time. You have to unlearn some things, right? And I thought about that. I'm like, wow, unlearn, and again, I agree with that part. You have to unlearn some things. But then again, when I thought about it, I'm like, no, I think learning is based on expansion. And so you don't have to unlearn anything. You just have to expand on what you learn, be it positive or negative. But that's another topic. And so I think we have to really reevaluate and prioritize the relationships that we're in, because I think a lot of times we in relationships unconsciously. I think we develop relationships with with our significant other simply because, okay, we were like, okay, this act happened. Let's say every act defines a relationship. We never came to the understanding. So most of our relationships are based on acts and not understanding, right? And so we just assume, because we made love, we're now a couple. We never came to the understanding because we did the act. We just already assumed that we're in a relationship. And that's a lot of things. So I think if we would come more to the understanding and stop building our relationship on act or actions, then we'll have a clear understanding of who we are as individuals in that relationship. I'm gonna leave that right there.
I like to add goals too, as you mentioned at Lightburn. Again, action. What's the goal? Many times it's just feelings and self-gratification, but sometimes we need to add goals. Whether it's a year goal, a 2-year goal, or a 5-year goal. As a father mentioned earlier about being a stepdad, there's still goals involved, regardless of whatever situation or we're going through. The goals still have to be aligned. I want to see you grow. I want to see you do great. This shall pass, so to speak. So there are many things we, as fathers, we really have to lead, and leading comes with responsibility. Leading comes with some bruises, but still focus on leading. Still focus on doing what's right, because again, the society has men, and different types of men have different feelings towards leading and providing. But just lead and do the right thing. I always talk about, I drive to work, and my daughter says to me, Daddy, why don't you drive faster? Everyone is overtaking you. I said, well, it's simple. It's a simple answer. She says, well, what's the answer? I said, well, most people who you see, they're racing to go to work. They're overtaken. They're trying to break the light. They're racing to go to work. But the real work is really your family. That's the real work. The reality is, if you're late, you're late. Don't race to work. Race to your family. Race to your kids. Don't get me wrong. Now we all need the money, right? We all need to pay the bills and do what the society expects us to do. But race to your family. We don't really need to race to the light. Race for the light for what? Because the reality at the end of the day, when that job leaves you or you leave that job, what happens? You know how many men are frustrated and in pain because they're not working? Race towards your family. Run into that light is not going to make it. May give you some. How much more? How much more money? Let's focus on our family. Let's put the energy we put into our work into our family, and I think a lot of families will do better with that mindset. Some food for thought.
That's some thought for food. And I say that because when you say rate, listen, it is gonna cost them money when the boys on A1A, mainly them BSOs pull you over, and them speed traps. That's gonna cost you money when you speed, you know, and then you don't know what can happen in that interaction of getting pulled over. Now your child has to see you getting pulled over, and what is that? You know, what kind of things is that? So I hear you. I hear you 100%. What's the priority of what becomes our priority that we become so anxious about? And what I hear you saying is make the thing that you're anxious about is your family. That you're more concerned about your family. Because I'm gonna tell you, you hit it on the head. Let me tell you something. You could get that job 12 hours a day. You know, sometimes do weekends, holidays. But the second that you go down, who's gonna be taking care of you? That your boss, now your manager, co-worker, they're coming. Listen, the most they're gonna do is order some flowers, send you some bonbons or something like that over to you.
And replace you.
What? Right. They're gonna do that. While they give you them same bonbons and flowers, your replacement already got your job, and they already found a way to hopefully when the MLA go out, they can just MLA you a paper up out of there. Mm-hmm. And then what happens? Your family will say, well, now, you know, I got to take care of dad. I don't even know what he needs. I don't even know what he like because he never was around for me to get those kind of things. You know, and I thought about this is something that I say this, that I know this happens for a lot of fathers. You're not around your kids in the capacity that you know what they need. You don't know their medical issues. You don't know what medicine they take. You don't know, because at some point of that, you would have to communicate with their mother, who is if you're not doing it, you got to communicate with the person who's doing it. And if you're not doing it, then that causes, and then guess what? It usually makes you look like you're incompetent to be with the child. Now, if you don't know how, you don't know the information, yeah, you're going to be incompetent. That's why we have to be proactive. Listen, being a leader is not just leading people around. It's also sitting down and saying, I don't know something. Explain to me how it works. I don't know what has to happen here. Let me know how it works. And then I will innovate it to the next level. Not saying, why you ain't tell me? You supposed to tell me this. You know, leaders don't wait for people to tell them. Leaders go and find out the information and then how to advance it and make it better. And you should want to be able to do that for your children and for your family. That's just a reality. And I know it could be hard. Listen, I'm not saying it's easy. It's easy to do if you got the people that you got to do it with is on board, but it's definitely not easy if the people you got to do it with is not on board. That you got to have a lot of patience. You got to have you got to bite the back of your tongue quite a few times to manage, because the goal is to get what you really, not what you want, but what you need. You need this information. You need to know these things so you can best benefit your child in the time of need. So I I throw that in there as a.
I like Rohan's story because Rohan, and not that it's a missed opportunity, but there was a bigger lesson in your daughter asking why you're not driving fast like everybody else. Because guess what? You may have got up on time to not have to. You understand? And so there's a difference between when you're driving in the morning, you got two types of people on the road. You got people who rush and people who are ready. And so if you're a ready driver, you'll never have to be a rush driver. People who get up on time is a ready driver. You understand? And when you understand, when she understands the discipline of time, you understand that you actually taught her within that moment, you let her know that I'm not a rush driver, I'm a ready driver. Rush drivers are people who are not ready. But ready drivers are people who don't have to rush. That's what you are. And so that's the importance of teaching her. And once she understands that, she'll live a more healthier life, because I'm going to tell you something, stress is just stress. When you're rushing, stress is just stress. Rushing is just stress in a car. That's really all it is. And so you just took the stress that you woke up with and you was in the bathroom with, and you just put it behind the wheel. You understand? So what she need to do is focus the fact that when you start to value time and you start to teach time management, then you have to know that it's better to be ready than rush, because when you're ready, you can enjoy the commute or the drive to work. You understand? And then guess what? A person that's not stressed because they got up in time enough have time to do everything they want to do and on their way to work. And when they get to work, guess what? They got the time, and that time management carries through. Like look at Dr. Gaines. He's the epitome of a ready. You understand? A ready person, not a rush person.
That's right.
And you get that over time once you put the discipline. Same thing with Teeny. Guess what? Same thing with me and Ron. We question marks on it, but. But I can really compliment Dr. Gaines and Teeny, because their demeanor says it. So they don't have to say a word. Their demeanor tells me that they're more ready than rushed. Me and Ron, we're right at the middle part. We're right between rushed and ready. We're getting to the more on the ready side.
Brother Lightborn, let me just say this to you. I'm not a young man. I'm not an old man, but I'm not a young man. I got less time in front of me than I got behind me. Okay. I'm in touch with my mortality and how because you get in touch with it, So I think it's important that I enjoy what's around me. I don't let it takes a lot to touch my emotions. I think, people I deal with sometimes struggle with that. Unless you live inside this family domain, it's going to be real difficult to touch my emotions. Now, one of these people inside my domain, they can take me from 0 to 10 in seconds. My daughter used to work with me, and people would marvel at how composed and cool I was under pressure. That's a whole other story. Ron understands it. I've just been exposed to a different kind of thing. And under pressure, they'd see me, and it was like they looked at me like I was a rock. When my daughter started working with me, listen, go to 0 to 10 in a second. Okay, she has the ability to touch my emotions. So, I say all that to say that I just don't let the world, take control of me. It doesn't matter whatever goes on in the world, that doesn't move me. Okay, it's what I think that moves me. So I really try to stay in touch with that. Plus, at the end of the day, I'm tired.
That's exactly right.
Oh man.
Managing stress is a tool everyone needs to learn. It is vital in these days to learn how to manage stress, because stress is a part of life, right? It's here, it's there, sometimes it's in front of you, and that's the one you really got to learn how to manage. The one that is directly in front of you, not the one you see on the news, or the one that when you're driving the car, you look to the right, you see that one, the one is in front of you, that's the one you really learn to manage, because those are the ones that you're going to face most times in life. And stress is not good, right? Stress, and sometimes we bring home stress too. We bring it into the household. We shouldn't do that. Leave it outside. Don't bring it into your household. Throw it in the garbage, if that's for a better word. But sometimes we take on stress that we really don't need to take on. I'm on board with Mr. Gaines. I like that mindset you have right there.
Well, Brother Osborne, with that being said,
I don't know. That's a nice try, but that's not.
No, I'm just opening the door for you to steer.
Oh, you open the door for me to steer. Well, listen.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And remember, he's got us on the cliff.
I don't got you on the cliff. Rohan is a master wordsman. I mean, if the man had a law degree, he'll be my personal lawyer.
I'm sorry.
I'm just telling you that I seen him in action, and I was like, he may not tell the judge that, and he I guess it might just be the accent. People like the accents. They like accents, and he said, "Well, Your Honor," and then Honor was like, "Oh, okay," and he said, "But this is what I have done. I provided this." I said, "Man, listen, you got a law degree, man. Go ahead, let me get you to do a couple cases for me." and I think that's a mentality that we can see, that we have to also remember that when we're coming to this place of dealing with the idea that we have seen so much, or we have this perception that so much hate is being pointed at us, that we don't become defensive. And I think that's a big part of being able to be centered, to say, okay, that one of the big things is what makes you feel that way. What makes you say that? Not in a defensive way, like, how do you got proof that I wasn't good, or I didn't do this? Listen, it's not a battle at this point. It's really a place to hopefully get an understanding to, because I think that I've seen more cases probably where people said they hated their dads, even their mothers, they hated family members. And when it came time for the pinnacle conversation, from that conversation, they really started to hate them. Right? They didn't hate them before. They was just saying it because it was like they're hoping that they will get involved and there will be something different than what they. And you got to realize that phenomenon of having a bias against somebody and thinking they're one way and then finding out they're not that way and they're completely different is a natural drawn. It draws that person to you so much more. Like the idea that they could say that, oh, he did this, and oh, she was like this, and then when they interact with you, they find that none of those things is reality. None of that is the truth. Now, what they do know, and then what makes it even a little bit more, I won't say sweet, but make it a little bit more fulfilling, is that when the point comes that they get to interact with you on their own and from their own experience have an identification of who you are and what they think about you, then they have to go back and deal with the people who have said what they said about you, right? And they know those people way better than they know you, right? So they know that, because if a person is, if I like to say, if a person dropping larceny on you, they put larceny on you, right? If they telling you stuff about people and this and that, they telling all these things, they doing the same thing to you that they telling the person they telling, they doing the same thing to them. It ain't like a thing where, oh, I'm telling you all this, but I'll never say anything like this about you. Normally they would do the same thing, and it's not until you experience it then you're able to then at some point pinpoint and say, wow, if they was able to do that to me, they told me this about this person, maybe that's just them and they have their thing going on, and maybe I need to give this person more grace, a bigger grace than what I had planned from the beginning, because I had an idea that they was going to be this way or that way, and they're nothing like that. Matter of fact, they're everything that I could ever dreamed of having. I wish I would have had them when I was younger to appreciate them and maybe learn some other things from them. But it all depends on how adjusted that person. Because I can say there could be some young people, some kids who come who are so indoctrinated into the mindset of indifference from the other parent that they might not even can get out of their own way to get to that point. And if you are, there's you could do it. Listen, I'm not going to throw this. I'm not going to say it, but you can bend all the way backwards, and they'll sit right on your stomach. You try to knock you down. You can go all the way back, and they'll just sit on the stomach and say, "You're still not bending enough." So and at some point, people say, "When is enough enough?" Because I'm trying to do the most. I've heard fathers say, "I did all I could. I tried to help them. If I'm here, but I'm not doing it." Now, let's get it real. There are some fathers, and listen, as much as I say this or another, there's fathers who are basically like beasts. They're beasts when it comes to it. They got no mercy. They don't care about you. They don't care about you. They don't care about your mama. You either take it or leave what they got, and they really not really trying to do that, because sometimes they got their own other family. They got their own stuff, so they're not even flexible in that capacity. And that's when you see sometimes young people be hurt. They hate them so much that they hate them because they hurt them so much when they didn't even have to. You didn't have to hurt that kid, but you did. So why did you do it? You could have told them, this, that, and I mean, I give a great example. I seen a video the other day where the guy found out that the child wasn't his. I think he was raising child for like 6 years or something. He found out the child wasn't his. But the family was still involved with the girl and her life and whatever, and they invited her to a birthday party. And I seen the dad was at the door telling whoever the people was, they wasn't coming in. And why did you bring this girl to the party? Like, who was his daughter, but not his daughter now, because it was showing evidence that it wasn't his daughter. And again, remember, these videos are only snippets. You only get to see what they show right at that moment. And I thought about how much pain I could see in this guy, because he wasn't upset with the little girl was there, and I guess the auntie was at the door with her saying the girl's going to come to the party, but he wasn't saying anything to the little girl. He was really focusing his energy to, I guess, the mom, and I guess she had brought her brother along, and he was really like, "Get out of here! What are y'all doing here?" Because he was hurt, And sometimes you gotta remember that some people be like, "Yo, you can hurt men, and it's okay. They be okay. You hurt them, they'll be okay." They because there's this idea that men hurt women all the time. This is part of the game. But some men, they ain't try to hurt women. They ain't never try to do anything. They're not even interested in that. And a lot of times, them be the men who get hurt a lot of times. Because men who hurt women don't even care if you try to hurt them. That's just a part of the game. It's a part of how they operate. You think you're gonna get one over on me?
Right, and I understand what you're saying, Ron. If she's, you understand, because when you decide and you made up your mind to love somebody, right, then that love doesn't change because the circumstances change, right? That love still remains firm, or it might have not been loved in the first place. So I'm gonna leave that where it's at, but I want to give a shout out because I got two Sarah. That's one thing about being a father too. I'm going to tell you, and all you guys can attest to this. Being a father evolves into so many different types of surrogate fatherhoods. You can be a surrogate father to your as a coach, but I find myself being a surrogate father at my job. And now, no fault of my own. I have two. I like to call them two work daughters, right? At various different times. One was like 10 years ago. She's married. She's living with her husband, and we connect with them when we go to South Carolina. Her name is Julia. And the other one right now, my current work daughter, name is Karina, which is the exact same age as my daughter. And so I think it's just a certain level. I think every relationship you with comes with a certain level of wisdom and education that comes along with it. And because of that, it makes you, it allows you to evolve into so much more than what you are. You would think like my fatherhood of me being a father was just relegated to my family, right?
Right.
Understanding that being a fatherhood is so universal that you find yourself being a father to so many people and so many facets of life. And so I just wanted to give the shout out to the young lady. She shocked me at work. She said, "Oh, I watched your show last week."
Really?
And then she commenced. Yeah, she was like, "I watched your show last week. I was on there, but I was just watching." And I'm like, "Really?" And then she commenced to telling me all these different things. And I'm sitting there like, "Really? Okay, you did watch the show." And I was really taken aback by that because again, when you talk about if you think being a father or being just trying to be a good man in general is in vain, it's not. It's people watching. It's people watching it just to see how real it is. Whatever you're trying to project out there, whatever good
Absolutely.
you're trying to put out, people want to see how authentic it really is, and they want to see if it translates from what you're showing them at work or wherever you're showing them at in society to what this show is actually projecting. And so I'm glad to say that what we project on this show actually shows up in our real life, and I'm very thankful to every man on here and every man that been on here to contribute to what she was able to witness within her own life. So Karina and Julia, you guys are just a shout out just for you guys watching and supporting the show. So thank you for that.
Hey, Lightborn, what you just said is so important because I think that what happens is there is an expectation, and especially for the younger people in the generation of what they believe these type of forums or these kind of platforms end up being, right? And I can only imagine the idea if it was what we see traditional forum today, right? And they came on there and heard some of the stuff we hear people talking and saying, and they would come back to work and be like, Mr. Lightborn, uh, uh, wow, I didn't know you had those kind of thoughts. And how do you? Oh, it's just for the show. It's just I know that. I don't believe that kind of stuff. I think that there's a certain level of yourself that you can put yourself to say and do things. That's a part of you. I mean, I was an actor many years, right? And I know that when you start acting, right, you have to pull something from yourself to be that character. Some characters, some roles don't fit for you because it's hard to say, you know, I don't think I could pull that part of myself out of me to be that. Whereas, and again, you got to say again, that's acting. Here, we're not acting. We here speaking from our experience and how we feel about things. So whatever's coming from out of our mouth is really what we're thinking about in our brain every day. Not a character role that we had to pick up. We pulling exactly that, and I'm so proud to say that being a part of this platform, I can walk with dignity and pride that I can say anybody anytime, oh, definitely, this is what we're doing. Come and watch it. It's something that is of quality. I mean, we're not the high rate, big time production. We don't have a giant production. We don't got no production team or no this, but the actual quality of what we're talking about, the significance, the value of what is being talked out here is what I more likely would like people to listen to. And I think over the years, as you just said, people who have came on have found it very rewarding, very, very enlightening, very empowering, and even somewhat entertaining, right? Somewhat entertaining when we can get entertaining quality about some hard topics, but not a joke, right? It's not a joke. It's not like, some kind of plaything. And it's also long, right? because to me, it's no way that you can really have a serious conversation and say serious thing and express yourself fully in a small bit, right? If we went 30 minutes, well, basically, sometimes I could talk 30 minutes. Lightborn could talk 30 minutes. You know, we can get on the thing and then next thing, all right, guys, we want to thank you for coming to the Fatherhood Think Tank. That's over. And be like, but all this guy did was talking. You know, you had the people there. They never even got the. You know, one aspect I can say I love about our platform at this point is that we have spaces that you can actually have a space where Dr. Gaines got to say, okay, so Ron, what's next? Right? So that means that we're not just here trying to rush through or say things off the cuff and saying things to get a bite. We're really thinking about this stuff. And that's a real conversation. Those are the kind of conversations that means that they're genuine, they're coming from our heart and from our experience, and it's something that hopefully people can really learn from. And learn from realness. And I think that's a big part of, well, I think more than anything, realness. Because you can take right back to anything that we're saying and track it back to our own personal life, and that's who we will be. There's no doubt about this. You can see Brother Gaines here. He's here all the time. But he's talking about family, right? I promise you, from the time I met Brother Gaines, it's only been family. I only know him in reference to the family, right? Even though his family didn't want me to come in the house because I was a heathen whoremonger, somewhat.
Yes, your initial presentation did leave something to be desired.
It's not how is it a presentation? It was no presentation.
I understood. Well, hold on. I understood it. Though your arrival, they kind of crossed their arms and like, ain't nobody say a word. They welcome you right in. We
right
did what we came to do.
In all of my entourage.
Right. And there was not there was nothing said to them, nor were you made to feel uncomfortable.
No, definitely not.
Even though you had a questionable entourage. They're just not they were not accustomed to seeing. I think we were having was it a fight that we were watching?
It was I think it was a football game.
Okay, a football game.
Might have been a football game, but it was something really big because it was a national thing that the people who came with me knew about and they wanted to see as well. Yeah.
Right, and so I had invited the brothers to come over to the house, and Ron shows up with an entourage that are not brothers. And in every event that I've had before and since, I mean, it's usually the brothers. So he shows up with an entourage after he left, like, who is that? I don't like him. I said, that's Ron. That's my boy. That was the first time they met Ron. And now Ron is the house favorite.
it's just funny, and again, we're telling this, laughing about this, but it comes back to the core group of the family, right? That when I'm saying that when you meeting or seeing people in a place, they are exactly who they are. They're not playing some character. Bubba Frank Gaines is 100% a family man. He is the patriarch of his family. And doesn't mean, and I say this very uniquely in the IDEC as a person, as the observer who can observe. He's the patriarch of a family who also has a matriarch, right? And that's the unique dynamic that I say to people, that sometimes you hear people talk patriarchy, the matriarchy, all these things. But what you see is when you see real families, you see those two words balance themselves out. If I really want to get something done, I'll tell Brother Gaines, but I'll call the missus, and it'll happen. And she'll call me, and it'll happen.
You can do that.
Right. Those kind. But that's when you talk about, you understand the connectivity of looking at this idea, and I think a very important part that we talk a lot about in being fathers is about having family. Like I know that very often, the one benefit of our platform is having men who have had wives in families, right? So we don't get into this place of like all the like and women and I hate this and we don't get that because we have the if we divorced or got divorced or broke up, we did have the experience of the great part of that to talk about the bad part of it. And I think that's so important, you know. I mean, I can think, and again, I know. Listen, I'm saying this, I'm talking here because I know every one of these men here personally. They ain't some, person I don't know personally. I've known them for, I mean, over 10 years, basically. Everybody I know for over 10 years. They ain't like just a come by that. And I can think of, and I'm gonna say this, Rohan. I remember the time that I said, "Oh boy, I might have got Rohan in trouble." We met in and I don't even know if we planned to meet there. We went to the that I met you in the Broward Mall,
Right.
and your wife was there at the time.
Hill, man. Lord Hill, you were teaching the
Was it the lot of him?
You're teaching.
And then you was
Remember?
like, "Let me introduce you to." Yeah, you was like, "Let me introduce you to her," and she was like, she was not very impressed with me at all.
I remember. Oh yeah.
She was like, "What? I don't. What, I don't." And I was like, "Boy, I mean, I guess I don't know." She don't know. I'm rooting for y'all. Like, and I think that was the point at that time. I was like, I'm rooting for. Hopefully, I'm on this side that she didn't know. Is saying to Rohan, yo, maybe it's like this. You can look at it like that. Blah blah blah. But when I met her, she was like, yo, get this guy out my face. I don't even know why he. And it wasn't like we were just in the mall, walking by in the mall, just like, hey, how you doing, blah, blah, blah. And so you just think about, those kind of experiences that you don't understand how important it was at that time when me and Rohan met and we was going through that because he had support. He had a support. He knew that he could speak to me. He could call me. It was an availability to talk about, and I wasn't always, and I think that's, I think like, but you know what I'm thinking. We were not being in a context of, I was saying, get out, don't do. I was saying, see what you can salvage. Can anything be salvaged? Can it be fixed? Because it's a much easier thing to try to fix something you already have than try to get a whole brand new thing, right? I mean, a lot of people don't like that because they say my car broken down, this and that, but you don't got no payment with that car, right? So you put a couple of dollars in there because you get a brand new car. Guess what? You can get a brand new car with payments and it break down as well. That's right. The same thing that you have with your car that you don't got to pay no payments on. You get those things. So I was, these are the kind of support I'm saying. And again, this is why we come to this platform every week to hopefully there's people out there like Lightborn said who's listening can get something and say, this has really made me think about what I'm going on and doing as a father, what I'm doing as a husband, what I'm doing as just a man, getting in relationships. What am I doing in reference to the planning of having a child and what I would like to do and how I would like it to be? That's the kind of things that we plan to be able to share and do every Tuesday night here at 7:00. And I think we're doing a damn good job at it. I would love to be able to, again, we under the radar. We under the radar. We not, nobody, because maybe we ain't had no viral moments. But I think we had plenty viral moments in the past. But they just wasn't put in the viral place because I don't think that's not where we're at, right? That's not what we're trying to do. We're not trying to get viral. We're trying to hopefully incite and empower and give people a place of support when they're dealing with some things they don't have a community to talk to about. So I throw that in there. Let me ask if anybody, I kind of feel like I'm talking. I better take a drink. I only got nothing to drink, but I got to take a drink because I'm talking so much. Let me get it. Like, get it. I almost feel like I almost sold the whole, sold the whole show. But, I'm passionate about this. And if you don't know, if you don't think so, I can tell you that I spent, from the time we started this, to continue to do it and continue to do it and continue to do it at my own risk, right? At my own life. I just continue to do this because it was giving me so much, right? To be able to get on the platform, talk to other men, and help. You know, it helped me just like it helped other people. You have this group of men that you can really talk to. And we're here for one reason, fatherhood. And in that fatherhood, we can evaluate, not anything else other than that. And that kind of gives us a core to ally in. And so okay, let me close my mouth. Okay. Don't everybody looks like that now. Come on, let's come on.
No, Ron, you at time. Well, you're actually overtime, but you're good.
A closing word for fathers.
Go ahead and give a closing word and shoot out our sponsors.
Your child will remember you by giving time. I've met many fathers who have said, "I'm going to keep that check that I paid $800. I'm going to keep that check, and when that child becomes 18, I'm going to show all that I paid." Give your child the time. That's a better deal.
And with that being said, let me again shout out our sponsors: Zeta Chi chapter of Omega Psi Phi, Fort Lauderdale chapter, 1954 charter. JAG, attorney at law, Miami-Dade, Broward County, West Palm Beach. If you're looking for a lawyer in that area, look up Johnny A. Gaspar Esquire. His phone number is 305-827-8087. Or you can go to his website, www.jag1law.com, for all of your law attorney sources, our litigation. I would say if he was an accident, I'd be like Top Dog, but he's not. He do other more important. He's not just that kind of lawyer.
I think he does.
And again,
he does family. I think he does family, civil, and maybe some criminal.
Right.
Yes,
yeah, I know he does some criminal. Yeah.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah,
but I'm sure he does family and civil. So he does family, civil, and criminal.
So you have that ability if you're looking for a lawyer in the South Florida area. He's there for you, and we know he's a good man because he's our man. With that being said, let me thank everybody for joining us. We'll see you here again next week. Fatherhood Think Tank, another great 60 to 90 minutes of intellectual conversations. And Father, repeat after me. I am a man of honor.
I am a man of honor.
I am a man of courage.
I am a man of courage.
I say I am a man of respect.
I am a man of respect.
Fathers, I say that I am. I say that you are.
You are.
I say that we are.
We are.
Championship fathers! And with that, we want to always remember we keep our kids hanging on our arms, our families on our back. See you here again next week at the Fatherhood Think Tank. And you can take that and take it to the bank, Jack.